The Brickyard is really high. I really want to run the Indy 500 one day. And then Jeff Dickerson, being from Indy, he's never won that one as an agent and as a spotter. And he's had, Kyle and Jeff with, Gordon as, his spotter or clients, right? So he's done them all and never won the Brickyard. Him being from Indy, Dan Towers being from Indy, Cambridge, everything, and all the money they put in and resources into that facility. I think it's really high for not only me but the two guys that are really heavily involved in wanting our program to succeed. I almost halfway argue that it probably is bigger for them personally if we win that one.
Do you feel like you come here? I mean, there's a lot of people talking about you this year in a good way, and you start the season fresh. You got a lot of, I guess, personal kind of mojo going on right now. Do you feel that?
I do. And like,
what is that?
I don't know. Like, I think it's, I don't know how to put it without like sounding like arrogant or like,
well, come on, you can,
like part of us like would say, yes, I think we should. Like, I think if like me speaking for Jeff, it's the Jeff coming out of me, but like, I think they should be talking to us because I think Jeff we're really fast. And I think Jeff has reminded me of that as we are really fast, and we're doing everything we should. So, we're not, I think for us, like, it's always the man, Spire ran really good, or even at the Clash, it's like, man, Spire was up front. It was like, shoot, at Phoenix we were running fourth all day with the Final Four. We blew the tires. So
like a lot of people are taking you seriously.
I think I said earlier, I don't think it's a hyperbole for us to be a championship threat by the time my whatever my paper says I'm done, or to the end of this deal. Like, I think we can. Otherwise we wouldn't. I think I know the racer and Jeff and Dan Towers and myself and all of us wouldn't be as locked in and making all the moves to succeed if that wasn't the goal. The goal is to obviously win this year. We had to lose some to win some, right? But ultimately, our car's fast enough that even with the bad luck we had last year, we still win those races.
Yeah.
So, I think theoretically, without making it too brash, of like they should be talking about us and they should be, I think, nervous. Because I think we're, I think the more they overlook us, which maybe hopefully it's good for us, that we can take advantage of.
It's like the personality, which you've always had, is matching the skill on the track and the driving and the maturity. When that collides in the middle and they promote it, it's going to be pretty powerful. And I think it might be this year.
I think so. I think we can do it, for sure. I think with the talented people we have in the shop, the people that continue to add, the people behind the scenes that only we know about, right? Like the whole ordeal, right? That moves our needle.
Yeah.
It's going to be really powerful for us. And I think the biggest thing for us is, all of us
don't blow it.
All of us don't, everybody in here doesn't want us to succeed. Everybody wants us to, fall in line and, and for us, we're going to have to go take it. We're going to have to be aggressive and, take it from them, steal it from them.
Because that's what got you here.
Yeah.
And you don't want to stop that or polish it, right?
No, we're going to have to, just be, aggressive about it and strategic about it and take advantage of it. And I think that's where I'm most excited for. It's, I just love the group I race for. I love everybody above me, and they, I think they're hungrier than I am somehow. So I don't know if that's good or bad for the competition, but I'm excited for it.
One last thing. Do you feel like they get you? Like if you're racing or working for a place and they get you, they got an idea of what they have there, or they feel like they can do something with it and they understand you, that's going to make a huge difference in your career.
Yeah, I think they understand me more than anybody else, and especially speaking towards Jeff, I think he gets me a lot. And I think that's why we're so I think of him like a father, and he thinks of me like a son. So it's at that rate, same deal I said earlier. We're both locked in there. Let's just be officially locked in, right? at some point, you're just saying, we did it.
Yeah. Carson, you're part of a generation of drivers now who were born either shortly after or well after Dale Earnhardt died. And even though it's been this long and there's so many drivers, fans who weren't alive at the same time as Earnhardt is, he's still such a popular figure, whether it's through his highlights, through L Truck, through memes, through saying stuff like, race help, race Dale. Why do you think Dale Earnhardt has endured the way he has, and why is he still such a revered, kind of archetypal, omnipresent figure in and for NASCAR?
I think it's a combination of things, right? Ultimately, he looked and sounded like a superstar, right? He raced like a superstar, but in 2001, everything I've ever seen, he was a championship threat that, going into the year that everybody thought, right? And unfortunately, obviously, lost his life at the 500, but he was, a championship threat. So that only helps the legendary status, right? The stories, everything, the unbelievableness of, Junior coming back and winning, the impact he had with DEI, everything. Like, he just lived on, so much more. His story theoretically wasn't done, right? Because, with Junior coming back, with Steve Park winning after, I mean, that, stuff like that, it's unbelievable. And, at the sport's highest, right, you have documentaries coming out with him. I remember, the day I watched that religiously as a kid. I watched all the, pre and post race documentaries or the Speed Channel documentaries. And, they just told the unbelievable stories 1,000 times. And eventually the stories become almost unrealistic and like the legendary of it. He becomes, what he was, immortal to the non-NASCAR fans, bigger than NASCAR, the whole ordeal. So, yeah, well, it's just, I think that's realistically, why you see, people that don't even know NASCAR, they know exactly who Dale Earnhardt is if you ask.
You kind of alluded to this, but I was going to ask, how did you become aware of who Dale Earnhardt was, and how did you kind of start to connect with him, even though you were born in 2003?
Yeah, 03. So I mean, I was a big Junior fan, but with all the Dale documentaries out there, The Day was probably the biggest one. You had every possible way to hear everybody tell the stories or learn the stories or learn who he was. And yeah, you just you and the same deal. I never saw him, right? So the stories that I've seen are all the good days. I never really seen a race other than going back and physically watching myself. But if I only watched what I watched as a kid, you think he never lost a race, right? Other than the 19 500s, but it's, even when he won, it's the biggest 500 there ever was. So, yeah, unbelievable. And thank goodness we had him, and the stories we do of him.
Dale Earnhardt died. And it got me thinking, do they know Dale Earnhardt is a dead guy? Or do they know him as this badass race car driver, maybe the greatest of all time? How do you focus on the way that what Dale Earnhardt accomplished as opposed to, Dale Earnhardt was this person, then this happened, it was really bad, everyone was sad?
I mean, I think everybody. I can't really answer that. I just know he's the biggest badass we've ever seen. I think everybody. I think if anything, his impact of him passing away, was because he was the guy that would flip at Talladega or flip here and get back in the car and continue driving, and then flip at Talladega and get out. If he broke anything, he raced the next week. Things like that. So. They've I think they've said it multiple times in the day of just he seems immortal, like he was always going to race no matter what. So I think that's why I was so sad.
Sorry, I know that last one was kind of abstract.
Yeah.
Do you think NASCAR needs more drivers that move the needle a little bit more? Like, for instance, you have a social media presence. You do appeal to younger viewers with your streaming. Do you think NASCAR needs more drivers like yourself to maybe move the needle a little bit, maybe in the culture zeitgeist?
Yeah, I mean, you can just look. Cleus McFarland is probably more famous than every driver in the Cup Series combined, right? So that's I mean, I think that's fair. Obviously he's very huge on social media, but um, yeah, I mean, like I think that's super important in today's age for sure.
And is the Chili's fire suit from last year? Is that going to return again?
Chili suit will return. I'm not for sure exactly what, but I know it'll be exciting and very cool.
Hi, Gibbs, Zane Smith. And there's the aforementioned Carson Hocevar right now.
Just you. No, they did it for everybody. They did it for everybody. Yeah.
We did it for everybody, yeah. Yeah. Oh, you want
You want to be rude?
you want to be different.
Oh,
Carson Hocevar, it's good to see you again, of course.
Appreciate it.
And you were recently featured with your flamethrower in the Hell Yeah.
Hell yeah,
video.
yeah.
Now, we got a question from, who was it? Was asking us?
Blaney, I believe.
Blaney? Was it
I
Blaney?
thought it was Blaney.
So one of the drivers earlier thought that might have been a fake flamethrower, a special effect. Can
No,
you
that was
shed
real.
some- Okay,
that
that's
was
what I
real.
thought.
It burned a little bit of the roof that we had to fix the vinyl and stuff on it. But yeah, no, that was real, and it was about 8 takes of that. So it got hot for a while.
So how does that work? So NASCAR calls you and be like, "Hey, we would like to use you in this commercial, and oh, by the way, can you bring your flamethrower?"
So they had the flamethrower. I have one type of flamethrower, but they had a little bit of a bigger one. I don't think my HOA would love if I had that one.
Find out.
Yes, but the problem is everybody knows where I live because I parked the thing out there, and I have a Case King car in my garage. It's pretty obvious that my neighbors know, and they're all race fans or involved in a race team or something. So it works out really well that I can't hide. But yeah, they were like, "Hey, we watched you this commercial," and then I was talking with Cletus and everything, and then they're like, "Yeah, could you maybe bring the Dale truck?" And I was like, "Okay, like, am I bringing it?" Or is that like you're being polite, but you're just saying it very politely, just bring this thing. So I got told that, that's them politely saying, we really need this thing here.
I don't think you could write that off as a business expense then.
Yeah, I got it detailed for,
See?
for on the house here. So it worked out really well.
Carson, earlier today we had Chase Briscoe in here, and he had suggested a question for my 12 questions this year that I didn't use, but he said that you were the one that inspired this. So his question was, what's the most famous person in your phone, and how'd you get their phone number? And he says, Carson Hocevar is Derek Jeter's phone number, so you've got to ask him about it. So how did this come to be?
So I'm from Kalamazoo, Michigan. So is he, or Portage, or same deal. And my dad was one of the very first people on his foundation. And my dad was there with Derek Jeter's dad when he found out he got signed. My dad somehow found out that he was signed to the Yankees before Jeter was.
Oh, wow.
So, I always grown up, going to like his foundations and everything. And his sister, there was a Dale Jarrett race suit, there, and I didn't know what a silent auction was. I just thought you just guessed the biggest number. I was like 5, and I was just like, just guess the biggest number in it. Millionaires and billionaires, and Derek Jeter, at prime of his career, right? So she basically lost money for the foundation, or paid for that. Basically, they just gave it to me basically when I was a kid because it was the only thing NASCAR there, and I really wasn't a huge fan and everything. But yeah. It was always funny. Derek always, offered for, baseball lessons, or I didn't know this at the time. I tried baseball. I wasn't any good at it, and I had no interest in it. But Derek had always told my dad every time I saw him, like, hey, I'll help him out. Like, you need to get your kid into baseball, and, whole deal, and offered, whatever. And my dad was like, I think this racing thing is, I was starting quarterback. I think he's really into this racing thing or whatever. And I remember there was a game, like a World Series game, and my dad chose to let me go to the quarter midget race instead of going to the World Series when they were in it with the Yankees. So, yeah, that's how I know the Jeters or whatever. I haven't talked to them in quite a long time, but it was always cool hearing the stories of my dad and their connection. And Jeter was well aware of my lack of interest in baseball and my interest in racing.
Should get him out to a race.
I'd love to. I think he's in Miami, right?
Not anymore.
He was in Miami.
Yeah.
I don't know where
not,
he lives now.
I don't know where he's living now. He was running the organization.
Yeah, I thought he lived still in Miami, but somewhere around there. But
Yeah.
I'd love to get him there. I haven't seen him since I was very, very little. So
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Well, he's a MJ guy, or he's a brand guy, isn't he? For MJ,
probably.
yeah,
I mean,
I think he was,
I think everybody's rocks whatever MJ has.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he is. I mean, especially Jeter was Mr. New York for forever and probably still is. So
let's text him.
He won't answer me. I've just had the number. He probably has changed the number at this point, but I'm calling it that it's Derek Jeter in my contact list.
We talked after the Clash, and look, we've heard different things, right? Oh, the Clash is just an exhibition, just whatever. It doesn't really mean anything. You kind of took the tact of like, hey, everybody's still trying out here. Like it's still a real race, and you were way up there, well before the rain or the sleet, whatever, running as the top non-Big Three car. So, what's it going to take to maintain that kind of speed all year long? Like, is Spire really ready to take that next step?
Yeah, I mean, we ended the year at Phoenix, right? And our average running position was 5.7 before we blew a tire. And the only ones, 3 of the 4 ahead of us were Champ 4 guys, with the most resources, the key partners, the whole deal, budgets kind of go thrown out the window when you have a shot for a championship and it's only one race, right? Every resource, every team is put on the sideline, even within the organization, just for that car that's in. And then there was us, and we go to the Clash, kind of restart our year, and still a cup race, and we get up to the top 4 before the rain, and then in the rain we take the lead, and they spin in front of me after I choose from second. We get torn up, but like we were in the top 5 from starting 12th at a track that's notorious for being really hard to pass. So I think we're really fast. I think we have really good cars. I think for us to win, we have to, take it from them and be more aggressive. And, I've gotten asked this, how bad do you want to win? I was just like, I'm to the point where I just am tired of seeing everybody else happy when they win. I'd much rather win just to know they're not happy. So, let alone my own happiness. So I think that's the kind of motto we're rolling with. We want to just steal it from them so they can't have it, even if we're not enjoying it to our highest extent, right? Which we would. But I'm just tired of watching everybody else win.
Do you feel like you're, the idea is that you get around 100 Cup starts. That's kind of the number where young drivers really kind of start to things really click, and that's kind of when we've seen a lot of young drivers kind of take that next big step. Do you feel like now you're getting to that point? Do you feel like you're ready to do that?
I think so. I mean, I think we're really close to doing it last year. I think a lot of times the shots we had to win were taken out because of mechanical failures. And then, being in the must-win scenario-ish, when I'm running third, I got a Chicago, right, of being on the limit of, make one small mistake, you're going to hit the wall, right? But I have to win, or, we had to win, or we felt like we should have won last week. So, now I don't want to run top 5. I want to go get back what we felt like we should have had last week. So yeah, I mean, as long as we're running good, that I think it'll happen. I think we're there. As long as the tires stay inflated, the motor stays intact, and hopefully the caution doesn't come out when we're rounding towards the finish, and throw a wrench in it.
All right, Carson Hocevar, one of the most exciting people in the Cup Series. Thank you for stopping by and hanging
I
out with
appreciate it.
us.
Thank you, guys.
Sure, man.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we're moving through here, Jordan.